everyone, and welcome to our very first virtual Make It Monday. Some of y'all may be familiar. We used to do a free demo every other month here at the shop, but unfortunately due to COVID, we had to put that on hold. So we're going to try to bring you every other Monday a free demo. You will be able to find it on our calendar on our website, www.beyondfabricinc.com. We will have links below for that. Also subscribe to our channel and you will get notified when we have new videos coming up. On our calendar on our website will be the topic that we'll be discussing. Plus, you'll be able to buy the free template buy. It will be free, but you'll have to download it. And that way you'll get notified via email when we have things going on. So today we are going to start with a stocking, a dog bone stocking for your furry friends, our children that actually listen to us. Sometimes, mine doesn't really. So this is what we're going to do today. Again, you will get the free template. It'll look better than my nice wrapping paper template. But let's go ahead and get started by cutting out our stocking. You're going to need 4 pieces of fabric, 2 for the outside and 2 for the inside. You will be cutting it on a fold. So let's go ahead. I'm going to show you how to do one, and then we can start sewing this. This is an easy demo. I know I say that all the time, but it really is an easy demo. All right, so I'm using, my grandpa actually makes these nice little coasters. As my pattern weights, you can use anything heavy. It just helps hold it in place while we are cutting around. So again, we have it on the fold so that one side will match the other side. And we're going to use our little rotary cutter. Now you can mark this and then cut it out with scissors. You do not have to use a rotary cutter if you do not feel comfortable with it. Take your time, there's no hurry. This is a cotton canvas that I'm using for the inside. This will be our lining. Our outside will be a quilt weight that I've actually interfaced just to give it a little bit more body. You can use quilt weight on both inside and outside. I would recommend stabilizing it though, just to give it, interface it to give it a little bit more body when it hangs. And we have a tag. Now let's see if I can cut from the other side without walking around, because normally I would walk around the table. But I may knock over my camera person, Miss Brooke, and she would not appreciate that. All right, I'm going to have to knock her over anyways. Oh, much better. Helps when you have the right angle. And let's get this little tag right here. Ta-da! Now, you see we have little marks. We need to mark where we're going to meet the other side. So you see right here, we need to mark this. So I have a little slit in the paper, and I'm just transferring those marks onto my stocking. I'm also going to indicate where I want to put my tie. So we're going to go to the other side and make my mark. This is a friction pin. It disappears with heat. It's fabulous. I love it. Don't leave it in your hot car in the summer. All right, let's go sew. All right, and we are back. So we have our 2 pieces for the outside cut. We have our 2 pieces for the inside cut. And we also need a little piece for our tab, which is how we're going to hang this. This is twill tape. It's an 8-inch piece of twill tape. You can use grosgrain ribbon, satin ribbon. You can also make your own tab out of the fabric. So we have everything ready to go. We have some clips, we have our seam ripper in case I make a boo-boo, and scissors. So let's get sewing. So you're going to take your 2 pieces for the outside And we're going to match up. See our little marks we made? These need to be matched up. And we're going to put a clip there. Now you can also use pens, either way. Now, if you did come to our Make It Monday classes, you know I don't pin very often, but I'm going to try to do what I'm supposed to do and pin for y'all. We also want to go ahead and put our tab in there. So right there where we have it written, T for tab, we're going to slip him in there. Now we're also going to go ahead and do like a little stay stitch, meaning we're just going to stitch him down so that he does not move. Plus, when we put all these goodies in here for our pet, we want to make sure that the weight can be held, so it's going to be stitched several times. Okay, go ahead and put a couple more pins in it so it stays. Line up your edges. Oh, I ran out of clips, so I guess I don't have to pin anymore. All right, let's move on. We are going to start at our notch, and if you cannot see it, I think you can see it, hopefully you can see it. If you have to transfer the marks to the other side, you can. We're going to sew all the way around to the other side. So let's get to sewing. Now, we are going to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance for the outer side, the part that you're actually going to see. For the inside, we're seam allowance. And you're probably wondering, why in the heck are you using two different seam allowances? The reason why, and I found this out a long time, I'm self-taught by the way, so there's lots of tricks and tips that we find out by sewing. I love to make bags, but I hate when you go to flip it inside and the liner is always just a little bit too big and it doesn't fit in there very well. Real quick, take a pause. We're going to double stitch over this tab. All right, now moving on. So our liner is going to be sewn just a little bit smaller, so just it's an 1/8 of a difference in the seam allowance, but it fits so much better. So again, 3/8 on the outer, and then we're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance on the inside. So we're just sewing around. When we get to our clips, move them. If you get to pins, move them. Don't run over pins. I should have picked a heavier table because this one is super bouncy. All right, when we get to the corner, you're going to put needle down and pivot. And if you didn't go far enough, you're going to go down a little bit further. When you pivot, your seam allowance should match up. There we go. Now we'll continue on. Match up your edges. All right, remember when you get to that other mark, we're going to stop. And back stitch. So now we have it from mark to mark, just like that. Okay, you're going to take it now and you're going to pink it with your pinking shears all the way around the curves, and then on these where the dog bone goes in, you want to snip it right to the stitches. Don't snip through your stitches, but right to the stitches. All right. So any curves, we're going to pink. And this way it will lay better when we flip it. Now these Make It Mondays, we are going to air first on the Monday that the topic is listed on the calendar. So that'll be the first time it airs, and I will be available. It'll air at 6 o'clock when we normally would do it. We will be available for questions if you have any. And of course, if you're watching this years later, if you have any questions, please comment below, and I will try very hard to respond quickly. And we're almost all the way around. All right, so one is done. We're going to put that over to the side and work on the inside. Burlap tablecloth is shedding on my fabric. So again, you're matching up your notches. Now on your inside, we need to leave a space to flip it. Do not do it on a curve. It needs to be over on one of the sides. It doesn't matter which one. You just need to not sew right there. Sorry, I was filling on the fabric because for a second I was making sure I had the right sides together. Fabrics like this, it's hard to tell. Oh, no more pins, so I guess I'm done. I'll just throw that on the floor. All right, so we're going to start at our notch. Change our seam allowance. Whenever you start and stop, you make sure to backstitch. Now when we get up to where we have made our marks, you're going to stop, backstitch, and move forward. Make sure our edges are lined up. Needle down, pivot. I didn't go far enough. We're going to go a little bit further, and much better. Just keeping the edges lined up. at the other end, back stitch, and done. So now, as you guessed, we're going to pink it. The lining, we are going to make sure that we get a good bit of the seam allowance off because we don't want the bulk in between the two layers. You can also use your pinking blade for your rotary cutter if you prefer. You have to leave a little bit more right there because we have to sew it shut. To see my white thread on this, please don't cut your stitches or you have to sew it again. All right, so now we want to take cords, flip your outside fabric right side out. Go ahead and reach your hand in there and smooth those curves. So run your finger along there. And because we've pinked it, we're getting a nice pretty curve. If you did not snip it close enough right there in the corner, go back in and snip it, but it looks like we did a pretty good job. So we're moving on. And unintentionally, look how pretty that matches up. I like when that happens. All right, look, it's looking like a dog bone. Okay, so now we are going to take our liner and we're gonna shove this inside of that so we have right sides together. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right, so our goal right now is to match up this top so that we can sew it closed. So our marks here and here, we're matching those up. One seam allowance will go to one side, one seam allowance will go to the other. And we're going to put a pin. The next one you definitely want to make sure is matched up is our points. We don't want a dog bone that looks like it's been chewed on. We want a nice, pretty dog bone. Make sure your tab is tucked in there so it won't get in the way when you go to sew it. And we've ran out of pins again, so let's sew it. We're going to take and remove this so we have our free arm, our arm free. we're going back to our 3/8 seam allowance. It doesn't matter where you start, just make sure your edges are lined up. When you get over to these corners, we're going to do the same thing as we did when we went around it. So, needle down, pivot, and continue sewing. Make sure nothing is under there. And if you're putting your fingers under your machine, don't start the pedal. There you go. I'm going to back stitch, and we're going to continue around our curve. This will be the most tedious part of this project. Nope, I need to go down a little bit further. The seams didn't match. Just that extra little stitch. Match up your edges. Nestle your seams. Take a peek. Make sure it looks good. Needle down. That's the main thing, needle down. Anytime you make a pivot, needle down. One more stitch. All right, now it looks good. And you see, because we did that different seam allowance, look, there's no extra bulk from that liner. Hallelujah. All right. So as before, snip to the point. But the point is not to go through the thread. And pink your curves. When we get over to this corner, it's the same thing. We want to make sure to get rid of some of this bulk. So snip, we're also going to get rid of that. As a reminder, we will have a free template for this on our website. We don't need all that extra in there. Nope, tell it, go away. Okay. Shake it out. Now remember that hole we left? Reach in there and you're gonna grab your stocking and pull it out. Hopefully you left a big enough hole. I try to leave as small a hole as possible because I don't like to hand stitch them shut. I've got a canvas here, so it may take just a minute. Feed it through. But our stocking is going to be super sturdy and hang so pretty. So we're almost there. All right, now I'm going to reach in there. Okay. This is when you would either close your hole by hand stitching, or you can cheat. Don't tell my mama. And we're just going to put it right underneath the machine and stitch close to the edge. Put the foot down. And now it's closed. Put it back inside. And then ironing will be the last step to press it all flat. Match up, get your edges. And once we press this, it's going to lay so pretty. So keep bringing up. These little finishing touches are what makes the project have that nice look at the end. So don't skip this step. We're finger pressing right now. We'll actually go over to the iron, but you see how it's starting to take shape. All right, let's go iron it. All right, now we are over at the ironing station and we're gonna start pressing. You can use a press cloth. It's up to you. I sometimes don't, and then I end up getting something from my iron onto my fabric. So hopefully that's not going to happen right now. Look at our pretty curves. Santa's gonna love putting treats inside of this. Now, if the dog actually gets this stocking and not my daughter, because she may want to take it. Okay, so we've done our top, and let's just make sure we have these sides smoothed out. Now, for getting your patterns to match up on the sides, one thing to keep in mind when you're cutting out your pattern, if you start at the same spot on your fold, then they should match up. And one dog bone stocking. Now you can also, this doesn't match, but I had it for this other stocking, but you can add, well, it doesn't look terrible. You can add a bow to it if you want to add a bow. You can also do a band across the middle, something that you can even tie on. You could paint or embroider the animal or kid's name onto it. So you could add a band here. You could do a bow, you could do a bow here, you could do a little name tag hanging down. So there's lots of ways you can customize this. You could even take the pattern and use multiple fabrics to create kind of a quilted, more of a quilted look. So you can change it up. Can't wait to see what you do with it. Thank you for joining us. Happy sewing.